Hello and welcome on live, everyone on live stream. We're going to get started in just a brief moment. I'm going to switch over to our agenda for this morning, this afternoon. So give me a moment. I'll be right back with you. Welcome for those that are watching on the live stream. I'm Drew Desker, director here, and we actually had somebody who called earlier this week and said that their grandson wanted to really see the moon rock, and the moon rock is going back to Goddard Space Flight Center tomorrow morning. So they finally arrived, of course, right when we starting our meeting. So I'm just going to finish up with them, and we will get started in a very brief moment. So thanks for your patience.
Did you show them?
No. Okay. So when you do your talk, I'm going to have you use this microphone. So you just like this.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Right.
So we'll leave that right here, and give me a moment. I'm going to put the moon rock away and. Okay, did you want to maybe have them hold the moon rock?
Yeah, I got pictures of
With them, hold it with them. All right. Well,
Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, I wish I could spend more time with you, and I wish I could show you the telescope, but we're actually in the middle of another meeting right now. So.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good luck, kids. What? Oh, absolutely. You're supposed to play in the park. You can't until you do. All right.
Okay.
I'm going to take this with me.
Oh.
If you want to use the, yeah, because I figure I'll be switching back and forth all the time. All right, so. All right.
Okay, this is where I'm going to.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
We are live.
Okay, I'm going to call the annual meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody today. Thanks for coming, visiting our center, and those who are viewing us through the video. Thank you very much for joining us as well. Okay, and of course the technical stuff. Drew will keep me straight here. So our first order of business is the minutes of previous annual report given by Tom O'Brien.
I'm glad to see some people here live. Last year, November of 2020, we were not here. I was not the secretary at the time, but at that meeting, several things were reported of substance. One is the update on the Kopernik Science Park, and you probably saw, as you that are here on your way in, it's complete, so that's a good news story. Repair and replacement of the new roof, that's all done. Other than that, I think we had a change of secretary, so I am now the secretary. I don't think, other than what we were able to do at that point, and hopefully we'll do in the future, is have a potluck dinner associated with that. And at that point, we did not. So I think that pretty much summarizes the take from that time.
Okay, point of order. The meeting was November of 2019.
19.
We didn't have any in 2020 because of COVID.
Right. Clarification. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Very good. All right. Back to John.
Okay, we have introduction of guests, and again, I don't know exactly where I'm supposed to be standing here for
Yeah,
this camera.
you're fine. We'll follow you.
We have with us today Jeremy Havens. He is our legal counsel for Kopernik Center. So thank you for joining us, Jeremy, today. Thanks for having me. And then we'll now give the slate of officers, and then once I do that, I'll ask you to come forward and we'll have the swearing in. So for those who don't know me, I'm John Spreitzer. I'm the president for the upcoming year, and actually current president. We'll have Drew Desker will be our first vice president. Irene Silarchik will be our second vice president. Tom O'Brien's our secretary, and Mildred DeWitt is our treasurer. So if can we point the camera that way?
Yep.
That would be good. And Art, I'll give you the microphone.
Sure, go ahead.
Drew, you want me to do this?
Well, yeah, we're just gonna. Yeah.
There you go.
Let's see how that is.
Drew, we need you here too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get the. Why don't you back it up a little bit? Just, or up.
All right. The office to which you have been elected is one of dignity and importance. In accepting this office, you undertake a responsibility which is not to be assumed lightly nor carelessly discharged. You are charged with the duties of seriously and resolutely furthering the objectives of the Kopernik Society of Broome County, Incorporated. With the law, the certificate of incorporation, and the bylaws as your guide, you must be ever ready to exercise the functions of the office with which you have been entrusted. Do you accept this charge?
I do.
Okay, if you'd please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and then state
I,
your
Drew
name,
Desker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to carry out in a trustworthy and diligent manner
to carry out in a trustworthy and diligent manner
all the duties and obligations inherent in my role as an elected officer.
all my duties inherent.
I will exercise the responsibilities of this office
I will exercise responsibilities of this office
to which I have been elected
to which I have been elected
with integrity and serve to the best of my ability.
with integrity and serve to the best of my ability.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
and thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Art. Okay, over the last couple of years, we've had a few new directors, and I'd like to introduce them now. Reed Durand is not with us today. He is our chairman of Buildings and Grounds. We have Laura Lamache with us today. She is our chairman of Strategic Planning, which has been a very big task that she's taken on, and I do thank you wholeheartedly for doing that for us. And I'll explain a little bit about that when we get to the president's section. We have Brian Bodwin. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, Brian? Okay, he's actually our latest and newest board member. So thanks for joining us, Brian. And myself, actually, I've only been with Kopernik for a little over a year, almost 2 years now. So come February, it'll be 2 years. So okay. Now we'll have the treasurer report, the annual report, which will be given by our treasurer, Mildred DeWitt.
Hold on. Give me a second here. I had it. Somehow it got away from me. There you go.
Okay, we all ready?
Yes.
Okay. The booklet that you have is the annual report for the year ending 2020. Okay. my report here today is our most current financial position as of this past Friday, on the 12th. If anybody has any questions about what's in the annual report, I'm available, and I will respond to anything that you want to know or if you need more detail, okay? Currently, okay, that top listing, those are all the accounts that hold our cash in one form or another. As you can see at 1043 at the top, that's the operating account which the bills are paid out of, okay? We are accruing for a possible bonus this year. That has to be voted on at the next board meeting, but that's been set aside. And then we have the smaller amounts, petty cash, PayPal, etc. Deferred funds, this was a vote of the board to set aside money for any upcoming improvements or emergency work that needed to be done on the building. So we're holding that. That's available upon board approval, but there's no other restrictions on it except we would be using it for repair and maintenance and other items that might come up in an emergency basis. Small amount of accounts receivable coming in, and then just recently we've opened a board designated investment account with the idea of building this into a very large fund so that there would be earnings there if the board decided on taking some ventures that we haven't done already, or hiring like an education director or marketing director. We are hoping to build up that form. You want to move that down to the board designated amount? No. You went too far.
Sorry.
No, note 3. Right. Just opened that up about 6 weeks ago. The goal, the eventual goal, is $1 million in there, so that it would be giving us earnings that we could use at Kopernik. Okay, so every journey starts with small steps. So we had available cash, and I opened it with $30,000, and I was able to put another $8,000 in this past week. And we've broken it into quarters. Our first goal is $250,000, and then we may be looking into more aggressive investments, or right now it's at the NBT Bank, but perhaps we want to get a firm that specializes in nonprofits or having investment earnings for use of the society. So at the moment we have $92,500 available cash for Kopernik. We have a permanent endowment fund that goes back quite a few years. It's $168,000 that cannot be used. It's just there for earnings. Those earnings are restricted to repair and maintenance on the building. And as of November 12th, we had earnings of about $5,500 in there. But it's growing. Usually do that month end. We report on it month end, but I gave you the most recent one that I could come up to. And profit and loss as of October 31st, just closed the books with the bookkeeper. Our profit was $52,372 ahead, mostly to the PPP loan. We had a $35,000 PPP loan from the government through the banks, which supported payroll, so that helped reduce expenses. And we had a few grants over the summer programs, and the funds we did not use, we are able to recoup as our own money. We do not have to refund it, so we're in a very good position coming into the end of the year, income wise. Okay, And then the rest of that is the board designated, not the board designated, the deferred funds of $30,000. If we have some things that we need to do that are not in the budget, I just kind of set the money aside. It's not a lot right at this moment. If we can't pay for it out of operations, we have that deferred funds to go to. So that's quite little. So basically, Kopernik's in a very good financial position as of Friday, and we are looking forward to our next annual campaign, which will be starting very shortly. The letters will be going out soon, and in the previous years, we brought in between $9,000 and $12,000. Last year, we did a little bit better because people were helpful because of the COVID issue and not being able to have programs. We lost about 2/3 of our income with that. So we will see. I'm expecting that to bring in at least 10,000, if not more, when that comes in. So we will be in very good shape for the first quarter of 2022 when there's not a lot of activity and we don't have a lot of income coming in, but we will have enough money to pay our bills and keep things going, and of course explore going forward what we'll be doing. So that's where we are. Do I have any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right. So we'll go back to. Next, we're moving on to the President's Report by John Schweitzer.
Thank you, Mildred, for the Treasurer's Report. So, Kopernik has been very busy for the last 2 years. Certainly, we had to keep on top of things with the COVID issue and what have you, and thank goodness we have, because as you can see, we're running in the black, which a lot of organizations probably aren't doing as well as we are, which is a very good thing. When I became president, I took on a couple initiatives that I wanted to achieve. Mildred's already touched base on one of them, and that was the board designated investment fund. And now I just lost all my notes here that I had nicely on my phone here. Bear with me just a minute. Let's see what happened here. Oh, of course. Okay, well, anyways, while this is coming back up, the other thing that I took initiative was I was wondering where Kopernik was headed. I didn't or wasn't aware that we had a strategic plan. There was one done back in 2014 and was worked on through 2016, which it became our actual plan. And with that, we took that plan and we've created, or actually we're looking it over right now to see what it says and what we need to do and where we need to improve, add, delete, what have you. And as I mentioned, Laura is our chairman on that committee, and she's doing a wonderful job. We'll be over the next few months going out to the public, seeing how we're viewed, asking them questions, doing surveys. We'll be surveying the board, the membership, the school districts, things like that, just so we can get a better idea of who we are. And if we see any holes there, obviously, fill those holes. So that's that. The investment fund that I started, I saw a real need. We're just not going to get it done by acquiring grants. Although, if we could have 3 Drews, we might be able to make it. But he does all our grant writing and soliciting. And that was one of the things, our marketing campaign, certainly someone that could go out and maybe write a few more grants so that we can, bring in those funds. But these are all the things that we have to do. It's an all together, strategic plan, the investment, and basically what can the staff do along with the board support. Where are we headed? The other things is that obviously we have a facility here and we have to maintain it. And I think Drew will go into this a little bit more specific, but just some of the things we had to replace the roof, and now that's been paid off. The other things that we see now is we have our geothermal, which is our heating and cooling system, which is giving us problems, and we got to look at improving that, doing some replacement, and then other things like the parking lot. So we got a lot of work ahead of us to maintain the facility here, and certainly that's our job to do so, and that's our plans. Okay, I think that's all I really wanted to say, Drew. So
all right,
we'll
very
turn
good.
it on over to the executive director.
All right, thank you. Let's see if my mic is working. It appears to be. All right, so I'm gonna go to my presentation here. And all right, let's see here. I think that's gonna do it. Just make sure that it's doing what I think it's gonna do. Oh, you know, I think it'll be helpful if I actually put it on the live stream. Just make sure that it gets to the live stream, and then we'll press on. All right, so this is going to be both a years in review, because we didn't have our meeting last year, and let's see. So basically, March 13th of 2020 was our actual last Friday night program that we had up here, and then right after that, basically, our world sort of, you could almost say, collapsed a little bit. All of our school field trips were canceled, and those are usually something that we really count on for income. Also, our Kopernik Kids classes were canceled. Our Rocket Fest was canceled. All of our in-person summer camps were canceled. We had to sort of look at our finances, and so the staff ended up being furloughed. We didn't want to, but unfortunately that was just the situation we were in. Our Race to the Stars race was also canceled. We then, let me just, hold on here, I'm sorry. Just so I can see what I'm doing here. All right. But what we did was we talked, amongst the staff and the board, and tried to decide, how do we want to respond. So we retooled our summer camps. We had already put our summer camps out, anticipating them to be in person, but we retooled and were able to do, I believe it was 8 different camps that we actually did virtually, and we had a total of 85 students, including one of our camps called Welcome Aboard the ISS, where our students, sitting in their home wherever they were, actually talked to an astronaut on the International Space Station using our facilities here through our ham radio setup. So that was quite exciting. We also then started offering our YouTube live streams. We now have over 2,500 subscribers, and it has really turned out to be a real new window for opportunity for us to be able to to reach even a larger audience. We've offered a number of Friday night programs this way. We've done some night sky observations this way, both NASA launches and landings, both of the Perseverance Mars rover, but also the SpaceX Crew Dragon that had the astronaut Doug Hurley, who grew up here in this area. We even did our Astrofest virtually. It was interesting, actually. The program we did in December, there was the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction that happened in December. At one point, we had over 4,000 people on our live stream watching that event. So, with that sort of new skills in dealing with virtual teaching, we actually were able to do a number of virtual classroom visits with actually a school down in New York City. with a grant that we received, we actually did a virtual after-school STEM club. But finally, this past spring, we were able to safely re-engage our Race to the Star runners, and we had just about 100 runners for that event. It was great. I think a lot of people were really itching to get out on the road, and we were glad to give them that opportunity. We were able to finally do Rocket Fest, and we did it a little different, where we actually had the people pick up their rockets in advance. They built them at home, and they were decorating them at home, and then they brought them up. We had given everybody little launch windows to to come up and launch their rocket, and that worked out quite nicely. So much so that we think we're actually going to do this using this technique going forward, and we can probably even do more than over 100 rockets we can launch that day. We're finally able to return to in-person Friday night programs. So starting in June, we started that back up again. Our Kopernik Kids programs were finally able to return, and then we actually did our in-person summer camps. We did one virtual summer camp, but the rest were all in person. We had 203 campers this past summer. Astrofest, we did both in person and live streaming, and just much like this meeting, now that we've got this opportunity to live stream, we'll be doing more and more of that. And just this past week, we did Girl Power. That finally returned. We had 23 young women learning about what it's going to take to return to the moon and actually put a first woman on the moon. So that was just this past Thursday. And even just as recently as last night, we were able to sort of continue our outreach in the community. And the Binghamton Philharmonic did a concert using of Mozart 41, which is known as the Jupiter Symphony. And so we brought our scopes down and did a viewing of the moon, Saturn, and of course Jupiter. This is actually the telescope that we purchased as part of the Kopernik Science Park, the Andy Teleska Memorial Telescope, and we probably had over 100 people that were able to utilize that. So speaking of the Science Park, we finally made some some progress, but let's sort of go back and take a look at how this whole project unfolded. The Kopernik Science Park was a partnership with the Junior League of Binghamton. It started in the spring of 2014, and we raised well over $650,000 toward this effort. We had a number of local foundations. We had local county governments helping with us, corporations helping with us, and this is the groundbreaking event. And I discovered something that day. No groundbreaking is actually part of that, so I wasn't going to have that. So I actually went out with a shovel and did some groundbreaking. So it took us a number of years to ultimately raise those funds, but then when we finally did, of course, it ended up being completed during the middle of this pandemic. But we still wanted to open it up to people, and so we actually did do a ribbon cutting, but of course we had to do it virtually. So the Junior League actually brought little bits of ribbon to various donors and government officials that helped us make this possible. And everybody had their little bit of ribbon. I sat out alone on the park and cut the ribbon. And since then we've had just thousands of kids have come up here, and the response from the kids, but also the parents, has just been outstanding. What's been nice is every structure has a sign on it explaining a little bit about what it does and how it fits into science or engineering. There's a QR code that then will take the parents or whoever's got the phone to our website, and they can learn more about that particular structure. This actually is a nice picture that was done by one of our educators, Jeremy Carty. It really is a gorgeous picture, and so we're even when I'm out in the community, I hear a number of people say, "Oh, I was just up at your playground with my child or my grandchild," and they can't say enough nice things about it. So now that that's finally in and in place, let me tell you a little bit about, and I think John had talked a little bit about some of the stuff, but let me sort of go into a little more detail on some of the infrastructure. As John mentioned, we had to replace our roof, and also when we did that, we also added some additional insulation, so that's helping to keep our energy bills a little more in control. We actually have a bit of a roof drain issue that empties out into the front yard, and we're working on addressing that. Sometimes that actually causes if it freezes up, it actually backs up and floods the back office. So I don't like that. So we're going to make sure that we keep on top of that. We also had to replace our fire and burglar alarm system, which is that's been nice because now everybody gets their own separate code. And right now we're in the middle of doing some dome repair. In particular, our 6-inch dome has been basically it's approaching 50 years old, and it was showing. So with help of Art Castillo and Mike Blake and some friends, we've started working on sealing that and getting that up to where it needs to be. And also finally, we're in the process of upgrading the 20-inch telescope controller. The controller for that right now runs on a Windows 98 computer. I think it's time to move into this century, and so we're just waiting for the parts to arrive, and that'll happen in Q1 of 2020. As far as some additional infrastructure projects, as John mentioned, we have a geothermal heating and HVAC system here that was put in when Robertson expanded the facility to where we are today. One of those failed a few years ago, and the concern is that we're going to see more of those happening. So we are in the process of evaluating various options to how do we get a consistent and viable HVAC system here, and so we're working on that. So there's going to be a major expense coming up. We do in fact need to do we need to finally put the final coats on the domes, and hopefully that will address that issue. As John mentioned, we also have a parking lot that's going to need replacement. There's already potholes in it, and we actually looked at possibly sealing it, but as it turns out, the two companies that came up, they said you'd basically be wasting your money, and that it really needs to be replaced. And then finally, the other thing, the Kopernik Science Park has been great, but ultimately it was sort of a we had to cut back based on the amount of funds that we had on our original plans, and so we have a sort of a phase 2 that we'd like to address. One is to replace the gate that's out front with something a little more stable and controllable, and also even to put a performance stage out that we can do teaching as well as have artistic performances outside. So we see that coming down the road. Just to highlight a couple of the grants we've received, we're very fortunate to have a great relationship with the Link Foundation, and they help underwrite our summer STEM exploration summer camps. Lockheed Martin supports us with a space day where 6th graders from Tioga and Broome County come up to Kopernik for sort of exposure to STEM careers. The Me Foundation was the one that supported our virtual after-school STEM club, and the Floyd Hooker Foundation, that was the foundation that gave us our portable planetarium. We then asked them for a 4-meter planetarium dome. The one that we originally purchased was 5 meter, and in some cases, actually the 5-meter dome we cannot actually inflate here in our building. With a 4-meter dome we can do that, so we can actually run planetarium programs up here as well. We've got a couple of grants that are sort of outstanding. One is the Floyd Hooker Foundation. We're looking to do a New York State Science Learning Standard program in Tioga County. They are actually literally meeting this day to make a determination on who they're going to fund. So hopefully they'll look at our grant submission favorably. And also we've applied to NASA for a grant to do a program called Ready, Set, Go and Explore. And this is, again, dealing with a sort of next-gen science standard, but we're reaching both into the Binghamton School District as well as a rural school district as well. And then finally, we wanted to talk a little bit about the strategic plan. we are approaching our 50th anniversary here at Kopernik Observatory. And so it's always every few years it's good to look introspectively and say, what are we doing? And, what is our place here in the Southern Tier? And how can we grow? Should we grow? I'm assuming we should. To become a regional center of lifelong learning. To me, that lifelong learning is something I think we could really explore a little further. People have a tendency to think of us as a place where kids come up and learn, but ultimately, if we can instill on the kids that learning is a lifelong process, and you model that by bringing adults in to continue their education, that's what we hope to be able to accomplish. So within that, we're looking to expand our bench of educators, hire a director of education, and pursue some additional partnerships. Actually, I think there was one question on the in the chat was asking, does the playground have a regular cost, like a monthly cost? And there is no official monthly cost per se. However, we do have funds set aside for maintenance. So when we need to buy equipment or replacement mulch or fix issues, we have funds that we can draw upon to cover those to cover that maintenance. And so we should be good for a number of years with that. And so it does sort of expand the additional maintenance. We have to keep going outside, make sure that all the screws are in place, that the toilet paper in the composting toilet is there is some there, but ultimately it's well worth that extra effort just because of the number of people that it brings up to Kopernik. So anyway, thank you for letting me talk a little bit about where we are, and I guess at this point we can, unless there's any other questions in the chat, I'll just give them. Okay, hold that. Yep. Let me just wait for the mic to turn on so that you can answer that. 1, 2, 3. Here you go.
The equipment in the park, are we under any obligation to have that inspected every year to make sure that it's safe, or is there some program that we're supposed to be doing with that?
Not to my knowledge. The town is certainly aware of that. We've had we have a fire inspection every year up here, and the building and code department know that it's here, but I've not been made aware of any requirements for that.
But there is a maintenance plan that addresses any preventive maintenance that needs to take place on those structures, on those play structures.
Yes, it's a maintenance plan was one of the deliverables as part of this project, which we do in fact have, and so the Building and Grounds Committee will continue to look at that and decide when do we do various tasks. We were very fortunate this past September to have during the Day of Caring about 15 or 16 people from Delta Engineers, surveyors and landscapers. Is that okay? Who came up and did a bunch of grounds maintenance, with that, and also check things out. So yeah, so right now, we appear to be good, but yeah, we do need to be vigilant and make sure that stays.
We have 41,000.
Right. So we have money set aside in the joint venture over about $41,000. Now, some of that also, there's some signage that needs to be put up. We are still thinking of trying to do some sort of a grand opening event, but again, we've got sufficient funds to make sure that this park is safe, fun, and engaging. So, any other questions? So we'll get out of that, and so I guess at this point we're at an open discussion with the membership, and so again, if anybody on the live stream have any questions, then please put them in the chat, or anybody here, either members or board members that want to get up and speak, please feel free to speak now. All right, crickets. So, all right. Well, I think at this point, John, I don't know if you want to officially adjourn the meeting here, and we'll let you do that officially.
Well, I thank everyone once again for attending, and this does adjourn our annual meeting for 2020. Right, Mildred? 2020. 2021. Okay. Now we're up. We caught up. Okay.
We missed 1 year, the COVID year.
Okay. Very good, Drew. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you much. And our next live stream actually coming up is the 19th. There is a partial lunar eclipse that will happen starting at 1 o'clock in the morning on November 19th, and we will not be open per se here for it, but our live stream will be. Actually, I was going to say we do have a couple of questions, even though we've adjourned. I guess we can sort of answer them. There was, I guess, a request for John to meet with the teaching staff at some point, but we'll have to work that out with your schedule. But also, does the board have any ideas and suggestions on how we can increase our membership? And again, the memberships probably represent about, I'd say 3 to 5% of our income. But anytime that I get up, on a Friday night, I'm always pushing the memberships. There's been some discussion about should we increase the cost of the membership, and which is certainly something we can discuss further. Actually, here I'm looking at a brick wall. I'm not trying to be a brick wall, but so. But I think one of the things that our membership is, I think, for a family is $60 a year, which is really pretty cost effective. We'll put it that way. When you look at other facilities like Robertson or the Ithaca Science Center, those are facilities that actually have. You can go there almost on any day and and interact with the exhibits and activities. We don't really have that here, and so to try to raise our prices, we need to really think about what value do we offer for for that amount of money. So it certainly is something we could look to try to expand, and we continue to push the connection to the ASTC, the Association of Science and Technology Centers, and its value. Whether we could ever get to a point where we actually had exhibits for people to engage with, but then also that requires staff to be here when, in fact, actually the gentleman and his grandsons that came up here actually came up on a Friday afternoon. I didn't happen to be here, and so he wanted to see he would come up to see the moon rock. So the challenge there is if you have staff in the building that you have to pay for, you then need to make sure that you've got sufficient income to cover that. So it's something we'll certainly look at. Are there any other ways we could market our membership beyond just this? We do have a couple of people that live in California or Boston or New Jersey that actually buy our membership specifically because it's pretty cost effective. They have never come here, but they knew about us and ultimately ended up purchasing their. Mike, you have
I was just going to say perhaps through schools, local businesses, advertising the universities, Binghamton, Cornell, Broome. It might be wise to try to expand through there. People who are actually going to be involved in the community and
just prior to the pandemic, we would do. There were a couple of libraries who would purchase a family membership, and that actually is a way to sort of engage the public. They could go and borrow the pass from their library, and get so that people could then come up here and do that. I think another option, like last night when we did the sidewalk astronomy event at the Broome County Forum, we handed out basically a sheet with our current, what are the upcoming programs we have on Friday night, a membership form on the back, and also our year-end letter was included in that. So, anybody that came to visit, we just said, hey, here's a little information about Kopernik. So I think I'd like to see us do a little more sidewalk astronomy. This is something we probably want to do. I know that the Kopernik Astronomic Society that joined us yesterday enjoyed doing it. Maybe when the weather gets a little more comfortable, I guess we'll look to do that a bit more, and maybe like on the first Fridays when those really start picking up again, that we find a spot and be sort of a pop-up observatory and do some sidewalk astronomy. And there's just trying to do that outreach. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. And should we have offer some member-only events? That's another possibility. We have done occasionally some events, like when we had one of the local astronauts would come up, and when Dan Bursch was here, we had a member-only meet and greet. So those kinds of things, certainly, basically you got to meet and greet an hour before his presentation. Then the general public was available afterwards. So those are certainly options, to consider and pursue. So let's see, anything else? All right, I'm not seeing anything else. So anyway, thank you all for watching on live stream. We had, I think at one point up to 9 viewers, so that's all good. Thank you all for coming out, and we'll continue to do the fun work that